Okay, we're up to Kuf Zayin Amid Aleph. Kuf Zayin Amid Aleph. Itmar, 2 lines from the top. Itmar. Achin Shecholku. You have brothers, they're dividing up an estate. So they divided up the estate. Ubo Bal Chayv. So yesterday we saw they divided up the estate and came along a long lost brother. Today they divided up the estate and showed up a Balchov of the father, not their Balchov, of the father. In other words, he had a shibud on the nechasim. V'natal chelkol she'ech mehem, and he collected from one of them. So let's say this person, there were 2 fields, and he took one of the fields away, which was rightfully so. It was meshubah to him. However, now that brother is out his field. What's the din? So is he out the field and you're tough luck, or no? Does he have to? Do we have a new division we'll redivide the properties? Rav Amar Batla Machlokes, says Rav, the original Chaluka is batal, and therefore now the field that field they'll split in half, right? They were 2 fields. One was taken away by the Balchov. Remaining field will go ahead and divide in half. Shmuel Amaviter. Shmuel says Viter, it's lost. In other words, it's your tough luck. You lost it. Rav Asi Amar, a third opinion. Noitel Revia Bekarka. I'm going to this gersa, or Revia B'mois. Either a quarter in karka or a quarter in mois. Now, what's the svaras hamachlokes? Let's do this outside before we do it inside. Yeah, we'll make the cheshbon. There's a halacha like this. When brothers divide an estate, how do we view the mechanics of the division? You could view them as yarshim, or you can view them as lekuchim, as buyers. In other words, you have the estate, and each one they're making a deal. You buy this half, and I own it, you own it, and each one of us will sell that other one their part. So you have 2 fields. We each own the whole field. When you get that field, I'm selling you my chelik in the field, and when I get that field, you're selling me your chelik in the field. That is if you hold ein breira. That is if you hold that when the father dies, you don't say, Mendy, it's your sugya. You don't say that that when he died, X son Reuven got this and Shimon got this, but it's mixed together. There's no clarity, retroactive clarity when the division takes place to say, well, this was always Reuven's and this was always Shimon's. Rather, they were both Reuven's and Shimon's, and they sold it to each other. That's if you hold ein breira, and therefore yarshim that divide are lekuchim. They sell to each other. There's another more lomdisha way to view it, and say they're yarshim. And what does yarshim mean? We view each one when they receive their chelik. That when the father was alive, it's huvra hadavel mafreya that Reuven was always the owner of chelik A, and Shimon was always the owner of chelik B. Good, chelik B. One nafkamina would be comes yovel. Yovel, steachuza, does it go out of the other one's person? You have to resell it again. But another easier clarification would be our sugya. If you hold that the machlokes is batal, is because you hold their yarshim, and therefore they all were required to pay. This one had his chelik, this one had his chelik. Huvra davel mafreya, right? That, in other words, I own this field, you own that field, but it doesn't mean when they take that field, I don't have a chiyuv to pay. Since we're yarshim, we all had a chiyuv to pay. There was a chiyuv on all the property. So if you hold their yarshim, then it makes sense what Rav says, that batal machlokes. But if you hold they're buying from selling to one another, so I sold it to you, shaloi b'achrayis. I sold it to you, shaloi b'achrayis. It wasn't like we didn't anticipate a balchad coming along. You bought it, tough luck. It was taken away. That's the svaras hamachlokes between the two. So says the Gemara. So 3 shitas. Rav saying batal machlokes, Shmuel says viter, and then we have the third shita of Rav Asi. Says the Gemara, Rav am batal machlokes, kasavar achen shecholku, brothers that go ahead and they divide, brothers that go ahead and divide, then yarshim hein. They're yarshim. Brothers that divide are yarshim, and what? And ikachasim and aseifa, that yesh breira, we say breira, and therefore each one, it's not pshat that I sold you my part. Each one of these fields belong to each son, yours to you and you and mine to mine, but each one had a chiyuv to go ahead and pay off the father. You understand, guys? In other words, you didn't do anything to me and I didn't do anything to you. It was breira that decided that this is your field and this is my field. However, despite that, there's still a chiyuv for what? To pay. Ushmul amavita. Shmuel says what? He lost the field. Because kusavar ha'achin shechalku, brothers that divide, lekuchas hang. They're lekuchas. Ukelokeach shaloi b'achrayas dami. And it's like a lekeach without achrayas. So you bought the field from me, no achrayas, you're out. You're out. Okay. Now Rav Asi, misafkale, he's misupik, I yarshim have, if they yarshim, I lekuchas have. So he doesn't know. Hilkach noitel revia bekarka. You get either a quarter of karka, or a quarter of mois. Since I don't know which, right? You know, so you're not gonna get a full hif. Rashi in Baba Kama has two pshatim over here. We'll go with the pshat that the Rashbam likes, right? Since I don't know, I'm a supik. You'll get not half, you'll get a quarter. So either you get a quarter in the karka, or you get a quarter or money. In other words, I can go ahead and give you money, and I don't have to give you karka. So those are the sheets. Okay, guys, for those who came late, since I'm a nice guy, I'm going to say it over, or else you're not going to know what's flying. What?
It's a joke. It's a joke.
A little surprising for Mayor Leib, you know.
Nicest guy. Jokes and everything.
Okay. Anyway, yesterday we had a Gemara. Yesterday we had a Gemara. We had two brothers. We divided the estate, and showing a third brother showed up. Right. So today we have two brothers dividing the estate, and a balchay of the father shows up and takes away the nechasim from one of the brothers. So now you have two fields. He took away the field. The guy one field so you have to pay the other brother. Says Rav, yes. Batal machloikis, you're going to go ahead and now divide the field. Says Shmuel, he lost it. Says Avasi, but you give him either a quarter of the field or a quarter of the money. And the Gemara explains. According to Rav, we hold yesh breira. What does yesh breira mean? That when you get your field, your father dies, and you get your field, what you're getting was yours all along. It wasn't pshat you bought it from the other brother. It wasn't pshat I bought it from you. Is when the division takes place, it's huvra double mafreya that this was your field all along. Okay, that's what Rav holds. I said, why but machlokes? Because each one has a chiyuv to go ahead and pay off the father's chayv. Very good. Shmuel says no. Shmuel says ein breira. Therefore ein breira. So who does the field belong to? It belongs to both of us. So how did I get mine? You sold your part to me. How did you get yours? You sold it to me. Shaloi b'achrayis. So guess what? The guy came along, took the field. You're out. Says Rav Asi, I don't know who to believe. I'm a supik. So therefore, I'm a supik. Mama muta b'safek chalkin. We'll give a quarter. Those are the sheets. Amra Papa Hilchasa b'chol hani shmaitza. The halacha in this all these sugyas is mekamtzin. Again, yesterday I remind you the lashon mekamtzin, lashon kaimitz, like you take away a little bit. So in our sugya today, Rav is the one who says mekamtzin, right? You're going ahead and redividing the field. Shmuel, when the third brother showed up yesterday's daf, he's the one who was mekamtzin. Rav said yesterday that it's finito, right? Rav said but l'machloikis, and Shmuel said mekamtzin. Rav said but l'machloikis, you got to redo it again. Shmuel one says mekamtzin. So according to Rav Papa, the halacha is like Shmuel by the case of the third brother showing up, and the halacha is like Rav with the balchov shows up. Got you here? Mekamtzin. Yesterday's daf mekamtzin was Shmuel. Today's daf is mekamtzin b'Rav. The difference between the brother showing up, that Rav said but l'machloikis, and over here we said but l'machloikis. Now, that's what our Papa said. And Ameva Amar but l'machloikis, right? But l'machloikis meaning it's always like Rav. But l'machloikis, yesterday's daf when the brother shows up, the third brother shows up, you got to redo it again. And today's daf, Rav is the one who says but l'machloikis. So the machloikis is in yesterday's daf is the halacha like Rav or like Shmuel, or Papa says the halacha is like by the third brother showing up is like Shmuel, and according to Ameimar, the halacha is like Rav, v'hilchsa but l'machloikis. Even though in Dinei Mamonis we usually paskin like Shmuel, here the Gemara is going to say no. This is we're going to paskin like Rav. Tan Rabbanan. Okay, Shloisha sheyardu lashon. You have 3 dayanim. They're going down to make a shuma. Shum hadayanim. When do you have that? You have to go ahead and sell a field from your simon to go ahead and pay off the kids, the girls. They got to be supported. So they're going ahead and they're making an evaluation. How much exactly what does it cost? How much exactly is this field worth? So you have 3 dayanim, and they come up with the following cheshbon. It's a little math, arithmetic, very arithmetic. One says it's 25 slayim or 100 dinar. Ushnayim, the second guy says b'masayim, and one guy says it's 200. Echad omer b'masayim, ushnayim omer b'mana, but liyachid b'miyot. In other words, ever achri rab lahatois. If 2 say 100 and one says 200, it's 100. If 2 say 200, one says 100, it's 200. Good. Echad omer b'mana, ve'echad omer be'esrim, ve'echad omer b'shleishim. So over here, now here's the problem. You don't have a rabbin. Each one is giving what a different cheshbon. Now, the cheshbon, guys, I'm going to break up the cheshbon for you in dinarim. So, for example, when it says over here b'mana, that's a mana is 25 slayim. It's 25 slayim. Why am I doing that? Even though it's 100 dinar, because of the next line, the echad be'esrim, esrim slayim, which is either 80 dinar. So, guys, for all intents and purposes, one's saying 100 and one's saying 80. Mm-hmm. You understand the reason? The Gemara did a jump. Mana is 100 and Esrim is 20. So you can get mixed up. So the discrepancy is 80. No. One is giving you the cheshbon of a dinarim, and the other one's giving you a cheshbon of slayim. So therefore, the 20 slayim are really what? They're 80. The echad b'shloishim 30 slayim, which is 120 dinarim. So what are our 3 numbers? 80. Our 3 numbers are 100. 80 and 120. So you have a discrepancy between the first guy and the third guy of 40, and discrepancy the other one's about of 20. 80 to 100 is 20, 100 to 120 is 20. Good. That's the setup. Those are the 3. So you have 100, you have 80, and you have 20. So nidun bimana, you go ahead and you'll take the mean. You'll take the 80. And you'll take the what's the middle path? You have the 80, you have 120, you have 100. 100 is them side. So that's the Tanakama. That's the Tanakama 100. Rabbi Eliezer, Bereb Tzaddik Omer, Nidun B'Tishim. You're going to go ahead and be judged with 90. Okay, 90. Right now, how do you get that cheshbon? We'll see in the Gemara. And Acherim Moimrim, the third shita. Oisin shuma beinehem, you make an evaluation between them, umishalshlin, and then you go ahead and divide it by a third. You divide it by a third. Okay, so now we'll go through each one. No, we go through each one. Man amanidin bimana, miltza mitziasa. Between 120 and 80, the middle is 100. That's going to be the halacha. Okay. Next, Rabbi Lazar at Tzaddik Omer nidun b'tishim. You're going to go ahead and make a nidun b'tishim. In other words, he's going to take the difference between the 2 lower guys. One guy said 80, one guy said 100. What's the difference between 80 and 100? Is 90. The 2 lower guys. Gemara's going to ask. And we throw away. He's off so much, we throw him away, right? So okay, so good. So the 80 and 100, we're going to go with 90. Kasavar ha'ara. This land. Tishim Shavir. It really was worth 90. V'haydekama esrim. Why did he say 80? The kotoyi asar lachure. Because he went ahead what? And he blew it by 10 mana in the other direction. 10 dinner in the other direction. V'haydekama mana. Why did he say a mana? Kotoyi asara lekamei. He went ahead what? And he went in the other direction. So therefore, really, it's a 90. He blew it by going deducting 10, and he overvalued it by what? By 10. Now,
1 to 120.
Okay. Says the Gemara, Adarabba. Why don't you say the following? Hi Ara Meya ve'asara Shavya. It was worth 110, and the 2 guys is the 100 and the 120 guy, right? So v'haydekam amana katoy asar lachure. Really, it was really 110. And he said a mana. That's why he blew it. For Haidakama Shloishim 120, Kotoi Asar Lakame. Lakame. So he right. Okay. So it says the Gemara, Naked Mias Trey Kamoi Biyadcha. Take the first earlier ones, the 80 and the 100. Why? The Rashbam says, guys, tafasta meruba like tafasta. When you have a low point and a high point, always go with the low point. And in addition, because the mitaris mana loy mafki, you're not leaving the Torah of a mana. According to the other one, you're going 110, 120, you're leaving a mana, you're leaving 100. So in other words, we're staying within that realm. By going ahead and keeping it 80, 90, we're keeping the realm of a mana. Yes.
Then you're hurting the Yarshim, you say.
There's nothing to do with Yarshim. Again, but the price is the price. Again, this is the Shuma. This is, in other words, this is the Shuma. You can't go ahead and you can't go ahead and charge more. We're evaluating a piece of property.
What do you say?
Yeah, again, because it's not true. In other words, given we have a rule in thumb, given I draw this to evaluate a lower or a higher, you go low because you know for sure that's correct. The lower you always know. You could go higher, but it's not true. Only one person said 120. Okay, so guys, let's go through it. The one who said a mana, that's very easy, right? That's the difference between what? Between 80, that's the mean between 80 and 120. The guy who said 90, really, it's a 90. Why did he say 100? Right? Because he overvalued it. Good. Why did he say 80? Why did he say 80? He undervalued it. And therefore, it really is 90. Okay. What about the third shita? That's, you go ahead, and you're going to go ahead. You're going to take a number, and you're going to go ahead and divide it. Now, guys, there's two numbers to take. You could either divide by a third the difference between 80 and 100, or you can divide by a third the difference between what? Between 100 and 120. What about the sum total? That would make the most sense. Take each three into account, and the difference is 40. Right? You have a difference of 40 between 80 and 120 is 40. What's a third? A third of what? Of 40 is 13 and a third. 13 and a third. Keep that number in mind. 13 and a third. Good? 13 and a third. Okay, so now, says the Gemara. The Acherim say, Oisin Shuma Beinehem, Umishalshim, make a Shuma between all the numbers, the difference of 40, and divide it by 3. Kasavri, Hayara, Tishin, Vitilsa Shabyan. It's worth what? 93 and a third. 80 plus 13 and a third. That's what it's worth. Again, Meilei, it's a Shuma. Remember, what you're trying to figure out what it's worth. So he held really, what did he have in mind? He had in mind that it's really worth 93 and a third. Again, you get the number 80. How'd you get 13 and a third? You took 40, the difference between 80 and 120, and you divided it by 3. Good. So now you have 80 plus 13 and a third is 93 and a third. So that's the price. So Sava, hi Tisha V'tilsa Shabin. Hi the Ka'ama Esrim. So why do you say 80? Katoyi Tilsa V'tilsa L'chure. He made a mistake of 13 and a third in a downward direction. By the Ka'ama Mana. And why the other guy say 100? So now going to the other direction, right? Going the other direction, it should be 106, right? It should be, guys, it should be what? 106 and 3/3, 93 and a third. If it's worth 93 and a third, you should go ahead and add 13 and a third to that. In other words, if you're starting off with 93 and a third, right? Add 13 and 30 to that, then you're going to should be 1/6 and 2/3. So why do you say 100? Got it? Okay. By the Kamana, Katoya Tilsa Katoya is Tilsa Betilsa Lakame. He blew it by going over 13 and a third in the other direction. Ubedinhu, so why is Ubedinhu the Lema Tfei? He should have said more, right? He should have. Right? I got coughing on the Zoom. No, I'm saying this is interesting. I'm getting coughing on the. What? No, I didn't have it muted. It's my fault. Okay, now, guys. So you understand. So now, if you're starting off with the middle of 93 and a third, minus 13 and a third is 80, plus 13 and a third is 106 and 2/3. So why did he say 100? So why did he say 100? Good. The Haidloi Ka'amar, that didn't say 1/6 and 2/3, Kasavar Mistoye, it's enough to come at Fina Kulehai Achavroi. It's enough that what? That I added so much to my friend. So in other words, he must know that his friend said 80. So what are you going to ask? What happens if what he did first? 3 dayanon are making a shuma. This field is really, they feel it's worth what? 93 and a third. The guy blows, he goes, that's only 80. The other says, only 80? It's really worth 106 and 2/3. But that's such a large discrepancy between me and 80, I'll make it 100. So I was bothered by, that means he must know that this guy said, or else. Okay, so you look at Rashbam, look at the Rashbam, he deals with it.
Recollection.
Now, if you look at the Rashbam, let's do the Rashbam, the first wide line. But dinu dolema the Shavyat Fei Mana the Shisha Dina the Hainu Yud Gimel Shlish Yeser Al Shaveha. He should have said 106 and 2/3, which is what 13 and a third more than its value. It's enough that he was moisav on his friend Chaf, because his friend said 80. Now, it must be that he knew that his friend said 80. Good. So I was bothered by it. And what happens if he gave the first bid? Says the Rashbam, we don't know who spoke first. My kasha, right? Maybe the 106 2/3 guy spoke first, and he should have said 106 and 2/3. Afilu haki noisim v'noisim b'davar. There was it wasn't like you put a sealed bid in and they were discussing it. I think it's worth this. I think it's worth this. In other words, discussion's taking place, so we know what everyone's holding. Rashbam is bothered by the kasha. Each person knows what's in the mind of the other person. And after they went ahead and they went through the matter, right? Then they all decided in their heart exactly what they think. He wanted to say 80. He was scared to say more than money. Beautiful Rashbam to answer it. So we have a very interesting lumdus over here. So again, the one that says 100, that's the difference between 80 and 120, right? The one that says 90, because that's what it's really worth. It's really worth 90, and he said 80, and he said 100. And the one that who says you go ahead, take 40, divide it by 3 to get 13 and a third, it's worth 93 and a third. So he went to 80. He should have gone to 106 and 2/3, but hearing that his friend went to 80, he said it's enough that I'm over him by 20. That's the cheshbon. Okay. By the Kamasava, Mistoy, it's enough to come at Fina, third line down, to come at Tifna Kuli Hai, Achavroy. Says the Ma'ad Rabba, Ha'ara Meya, Vitilsa Shavya. Why don't we say that this land was worth 113 and a third? In other words, and let's say he went down to 100, he went up to 126 and 2/3. Had to come a mana, Katoya Tilsa Vitilsa Lachuri. The guy said mana, you're going to subtract, the same kasha as the one above. You're going to subtract 13 and a third from the 113 and a third, and you get 100. Ubedinhu, the Amar, he should have said 113 and a 13 and a third. He should have said 126 and 2/3, right? And how that what? By the come at face savar, mistoy, it's enough to come at tfin the kulehai. It's enough that I say 120 and he's saying 100. Nonetheless, the same teretz, take the first two guys into account, the guy of 80 and the guy of 100. You're not going at mitaris mana, you're not going above 100, right? According to the other one, you would have been 106. According to this, you'd be and 2/3. This would be 126 and 2/3. Guys, it's pasha to Rav Huna, halacha ka'acherim. The halacha is like the acherim. Rav Ashi, time of the acherim lo yadinan and hilchas avdinan. We're wondering about the Tana. Look at Rashi says. Look at Rashbam. He goes time 3 or 4 lines down. Time of the acherim lo yadinan. Like mistab tamayu. It's not that we didn't know it. We didn't hold from it. We didn't know from it. Time of the mistab tamayu. Hilchas Avdinan Kavasayu. We don't know what they mean. We don't understand what they're talking about. We're going to pass them the halacha like them? It makes no sense. Back in the Gemara. So Amar Rashi, time of the Achem Le'Yadina, Hilchas Avdinan Kavasayu. So who does he take a hold like, guys? Tanakama. Rashbam says Tanakama, it's going to be 100. The difference between 80 and 120, that is 100. That's where we're going to go. We have, this is a Dayoni Goyla, if you remember, that's Karna and Shmuel, which recently had Karna and Shmuel. So Tanadayni Goyna Oisa Shuma Beineu Mishalshim. They did the same thing as Acherim. So Amrav Huna Hilchasa Kadayoni Goyla. The halacha is like the Dayoni Goyla, like Shmuel and Karna. Says the Gemara, the same Kasha, Amrav Ashi, time of the Dayoni Goyla Adinon, Hilchas Avdina Kavasayu, the same Gemara about what we're not going to do like them, we're going to do like the Tanakama of 100. Says the Mishnah. Okay, the Mishnah is cryptic because we're not going to pass like the Mishnah at all. It's so cryptic, guys, that the Rashbam says Mefarish B'Gemara. It's so cryptic that the Rashbam, who explains everything, says Mefarish B'Gemara. Guy says to his friend the following: Chatzi soda ani moichelecha. I'm selling you half a field. So mishamnin beinayim v'noitel chatzi sedeyu. Now you would think it means it's pretty straightforward, right? What does it mean? Take the field, you take half, and I'll take half, right? That's what it means. Says the Gemara, we're going to see that's not what it means. Chetzia b'darim. So he says, I'm selling you what? Half the field of my south. Ani moichelecha. Mishamnin beinayim. You go ahead and you make an evaluation. V'noitel chetzia b'darim. V'u mekabel lov. Okay. Now, v'hu, the owner, mekabel lov mokam hageder, the place of the fence. Charitz, 6 tfachim behind the fence. Uben charitz, and with between the fence and the property, another ben charitz, which is going to be 3 tefachim. So 2 trenches, one of 6 tefachim, an amma, and one of a half an amma. The kama charitz, shisha tefachim, ben charitz shleisha. Okay, so 2 dinim in the Mishnah. 1, you're buying the half a field. 2, a field in the Dorim. The lekeach, since you're not selling a whole field, he's going to provide the geder to keep the animals out, and between the geder and the property is going to be a chritz, is going to be a trench. The trench is going to be, and it's between the geder and the chritz gadol. Okay, where is the chritz? Just trying to remember. Just 1 second. Gemara says it. Amrav Chia bar Rabba and Biachinan. Leikeach noitel koches sheboy. Guys, this field is worth $1,000. Part of the field, 70% of the field is weak, and that'll give you what? That'll give you half. 30% is better property, and that'll give you the other. So one will give you, the 70% will give you 500, and the 30% will give you 500. The lekeach could go ahead, the meicha can make the lekeach take the 70%, and he take the 30. Because when it says that you're selling half a field, it doesn't mean the actual field, it means half the value of the field. It doesn't mean the actual field, it means the value of the field. So as long as you're getting, the field's worth 1,000, if you're getting 500, you're good. It's in weaker property, it doesn't make a difference. So that's what it means, as we'll see in a second. I'm Rav Kia bar Abba, I'm Rabbi Yochanan, like Keach Noitel Kochesh Sheba. He's going to take the weaker part of it. Only Rav Kia bar Abba, Rabbi Yochanan, Vanosh Mishamnin Beinayim Tanan. We said we evaluated between them. Mashma, each person gets a half. So Amalei, Rabbi Yochanan told Rav Chia bar Abba, the achlis katnaisa bebavel, since you're too busy eating dates in Bavel, give them a seifa. We in Eretz Yisrael will be metargim from the seifa. Why mishamnim beinayim does not mean you divide it in half. The Ketani seifa chetzi bedarim ani moichel lecha. The chetzi of the darim I'm selling to you. Mishamnim beinayim v'noitel chetzi bedarim. Right, you make an evaluation between them, and he takes half in the south. By my mishamnim beinayim v'chetzi bedarim. If he said half in the south, why are you making a shuma between them? So Amalei must mean what? Lidemei. In other words, he just said, I'm selling you, guys, I'm selling you half my field in the south. Why do you have to make a shuma? Guys, take a ruler, go to the south, go ahead, take a rope and give it. Where's the shuma? Where's the evaluation? Go measure it. Ella, what are you telling me? You don't go ahead and measure. you make an evaluation what the worth of the south field is, and you get half, and he can give you that half anywhere in the field. He's not limiting it. He doesn't have to go ahead and give it to you in the south. So Memela, from the Sefer, we up Misham Beinayim, we could up touch the ratio also. It doesn't mean the actual physical field, it means the worth of the field. One more time. If you go ahead and you're telling me, I'm giving you half, I'm selling you half of the southern hemisphere. You have a northern hemisphere and a southern hemisphere. I'm selling you half of the south. What should it say? You get half the south. It doesn't say that. It says you make an evaluation. Why? Measure half the south. And what's the answer? Because it has different quality. And what you're doing is you're evaluating what it's worth. And then you can give him anywhere in the north, the south, the east, the west, wherever. You can give it to him because all you're using is the south to evaluate a value. And therefore, the lashon of the Reisha is the same as the Sefer. Says Rabbi Yochanan, I'm touching up the Reisha, Mishamin and Alef, because of the Sefer. Just like the Sefer, it meant what? Value. So too the Reisha meant value. So therefore, when he says, I'm selling you half my field, he doesn't mean, it means what? Half of the value of the field. So I can give you the weaker part of the field as long as it makes up the value and keep the better for myself. So Ella, it must mean lidemei. It must mean the safe is speaking for its value. Hachanami, the Reisha as well, is speaking lidemei, the value, but not the actual surface of the field. The Kabbalah of Macham Geder. Now, we said the Lekeach, if he sells that he has to go ahead and he's not selling a whole field, he has to go ahead and provide space for what? For this Geder and the Chritz. So there's three things. There's the fence, there's the Chritz, and there's the baby Chritz, the Ben Chritz. Good? So, Hana, Chritz mibechutz, uben Chritz mibefnim. The Chritz is on the outside, the Ben Chritz is on the inside. The Zeh v'zeh achuri geder, and both are behind the fence. So, if this is my field, guys, if this is my field, this is my fence, this is my my middle finger is the Ben Chritz, and my other finger is the Chritz itself. So the Geder, inside that is the 3 tefachim, and that what is, so it's a total probably of 3, it's probably how many tefachim? 6, probably 10 tefachim.
Bordering the
aside, right. Yeah, you have to give another, I probably think 10 tefachim you have to give. 4 tefachim for the fence, 3 tefachim for the Ben Chritz is 7. So it's no, it's not. So it's 13. No, 6, 3. Oh no, I don't know. Let's see in a second. Kadesh leitehei. Why do you have the trenches there? Kadesh leitehei chaya kaifetzes. A chaya should not be able to go sit on the fence and jump, right? And jump and eat and get into the property. Fred Gemara lovet chritz v'loy lovet ben chritz. Why don't you go ahead and make just one chritz? Why do you need a smaller one? So I did the ravach, since it's wide, kaima begavayu, we can go into the chritz itself, the kafza, and jump from the chritz onto the fence. Ulavid ben chritz, v'loy lavid chritz. I did the cotton, since it's small, kaima aswasei, you'll be able to sit on the boundary, the kafza. Ukama ben chritz, le ben chritz is tefach. Oh, so here's the cheshbon. I saw 10. You get the cheshbon of 10. 6 and 3 and 1. So you have to give 6 for the chritz, 3 for the ben chritz, and a tefach between them is a total of 10. And this is going to stop the animal from going there. Tomorrow in the morning, Bez Hashem, or the afternoon. We'll be starting Yesh Neuchlen.